upset, thinking he was hurt. Fancy pooch of yours was not who? You were crazy to bring a little... Up to get rich. I didn't come up to look for gold. You didn't? Well, how about all those supplies you brought in those boxes? I brought medicine, cooking utensils, blankets, other things. Enough to live on for a year.
6 fishing rods.
What are you going to do? I didn't tell you before, Al. I was afraid you wouldn't understand. I'm a writer. Oh, yes, I want to do a novel on the North Country. I came up here for atmosphere. Well, there's plenty of that up here. It's too cold for most people. Is being a writer the reason you're always scribbling something in that little red book? Yes, I use this notebook to take notes about things and people I might want to use in my novel. Oh, I see. Well, being a writer, you aren't used to roughing it much, are you? No. That's why I wanted to travel with you. You're used to handling dogs, and you know the country. Now I'll have to buy a sled and dog team myself, I suppose, and hire a guide. Well, I guess I could wait for you. You think your dog will be better in a week? I'm not in a hurry, exactly. Oh, I'd appreciate it if you did wait. You have such a large sled and dog team, you know the country so well, it'd be a big help to me. I'll be glad to pay your expenses here at the hotel until we leave. That'll cost you quite a lot of money. Oh, I have plenty. Well, then I'll wait. It'll be kind of a new experience for me, trailing around with someone like you. It was a streak of luck meeting you, Al. From what you've told me about the North Country, I'd have a hard time traveling alone. I know the North Country about as well as anyone you could find. Aren't you even going to try to find a claim? No, I'm just going to write. But I'd rather people didn't know it. I want to live alone and not be bothered. That's why I brought enough supplies up here to last a year. I didn't tell anyone back home where I was going, and I'm not going to write any letters. I just told them not to expect any word from me at all. Say, you know the Mountie who took your dog? No. He's just going to keep Spot until he's well enough to travel. They put him in the kennels at the barracks. They'll let me come and see him whenever I want. It was the third night that Pete had gone to Sergeant Preston's cabin. The Mountie always took him to the kennels to see Spot, but this evening, as the door opened, he heard a familiar bark. Oh, hello, Pete. I was surprised for you. Was that Spot barking? Spot, old boy, how are you, fella? I went over the kennels to see him today, and he seemed lonesome, so I brought him back here for a while. He's getting along fine. Oh, this is certainly nice of you, Sergeant. I didn't think he'd get well so quickly. He's not back to normal yet. Can't walk very well, but he'll be all right in a few days. Isn't King jealous of him? He was when I brought him in, but they're good friends now. King seems to know that he needs help. He learned Spot's name. What's this? Here's his collar, King. Take it to Spot. Take it to Spot, fella.
Oh, yeah, well, he's going to know what you're doing.
He's doing it. Good boy. Oh, this is a smart dog you have, Sergeant. I thought Spot was intelligent, but I didn't think he'd learn a name that quickly. No, King's seen him before this. I took him with me, and I went to the kennels each day. Do you think it'll be all right if I hold Spot on my lap for a while? He won't let me leave. Certainly. Sit down. All right, here, Spot. That's it. I'll baby you for a while. The little devil, he wants sympathy. Some dogs are like children. When they're sick, they want all the attention they can get. All right, now, I see. It's a fine little dog you have there, Pete. He has a lot of nerve. Sick as he is, he wasn't at all afraid of King. That's the trouble with him. He doesn't know his limitations. When that husky came for him the other day, he should have turned and run instead of standing his ground the way he did. I'll tell you, that funny as fun.
Big dogs.
You'll have to watch him up here, though, Pete. He's no match for these dogs. I hope he's learned a lesson, but I doubt it. I guess I shouldn't have brought him. But I've had him since he was 4 weeks old, and, well, I've taken him everywhere. You're planning to do some prospecting? No, Sergeant. I'm a writer. I'm planning to do some stories about the North. Oh,
I just think
want to use
that
you and King in some of them,
but
if you don't mind.
70 years old.
I already have some notes about you in my notebook. I even drew some sketches of King.
This idiot still wants to rob this guy.
Here's the book. The sketches are on the last pages. Oh.
And he knows that he's hanging out with the Mountie and all this.
Are you an artist, too? No, not good enough to do it professionally. Who's this sinister-looking person here at the bottom of the page? I hope that's not your idea of me. Oh, no. That's Al, the man who's taking me north. He's really not as bad as he looks. He has a good dog team and sled and can carry all my supplies. When are you planning to leave? Just as soon as Spot can travel. Well, that'll be about 3 days. You know where you're going? I want to go up to the Klondike. Phil. Straight north.
Well,
It's a rough trip with winter coming on.
I
expect that.
But
adventure is what I came for. And I should meet some colorful people. There's one man you should meet. He can give you a lot of ideas. He's an experience in himself. You will meet him, too, because you'll stop at his roadhouse on the trail, probably the third night. His name's Klondike Bill. Klondike Bill. He'll tell you stories about this country just as long as you'll listen to him. You'll get plenty of material from him. I'm glad you told me about him, Sergeant. I'll plan to stay at his roadhouse for 2 or 3 days if he's that interesting. You're a traveling companion. Might not want to waste the time. Oh, Al won't care as long as I pay the expenses. He's waiting a whole week for me. He planned to leave 3 days ago. Most of the men break their necks to get up there as fast as they can before all the gold claims are taken. You're lucky to find someone like Al. I think so, too. Well, I guess I'd better take Spot back to the kennel and not waste any more of your time. Do you think I can take him out day after tomorrow? Oh, I think Spot could ride on the sled for a few days. It was certainly lucky for us that you came along when you did, Sergeant. I don't know how to thank you for all this. Glad to do it, Pete. I'll have Spot here day after tomorrow for you. Oh, I'd like to see you again before you go. That'll be fine. I'll come here for him then. Come on, Spot.
A lot of these people think they want a dog. They don't want a dog. They want a dog ringtone. Click. Thank you. So for some reason they've got these expandable notification things. You have to click it.
Falling out of his pocket when he called for
I can't just click it. I gotta
he
click
left
it
a note, didn't he? Yes, he did, and this notebook's
all
important to
sorts
him.
of time.
Did he leave a forwarding address, do you suppose? I'm afraid not. He wasn't sure just where he was going to live. Oh, well, maybe he'll write you for it and tell you where to send it. There's just a chance I might be able to catch him at Klondike Bill's roadhouse and know him north. I told him about Bill, suggested he spend a few days with him to get some local color for his novel. Sure, you'll get us there all right. You starting north tomorrow? Yes, more reports have come in about missing people, Corporal. Started a few months ago with a man named F. Williams. Seems he started for Dawson to join his nephew and never got there. Since then, there have been several more similar cases. The inspector seems to think they're being waylaid on the trail somewhere and their supplies and money stolen. Maybe part of Soapy Smith's crowd is moving up here from the Skagway trail. They haven't tried any...
Smart.
That's Everyday Smart from CIBC. Condition.
Wow, that's
Short raids over the border, then going back.
Yeah, you boost these that loud.
Taking care of that now. What do you think?
The
new order out,
they have to
Corporal.
level out the white
The Northwest Mounted has been given permission to cross the border into Alaska territory if necessary.
That should
help us a lot. I think the first place I'll check for these people is Klondike Bill's. The trail from here to his roadhouse is near the border. It branches away from the border from there on.
Like,
If Pete stays
statistically,
over to get better acquainted with Bill,
where in
I'll
the
catch
world
him
you would
day
find
after
the
tomorrow.
most people that have copies of this on their MP3 players?
Klondike Bill shook his grizzled
can't be
head
an
and
English
aimed a
language
stream of
country.
tobacco juice accurately
To us,
into the
it's all
tall glass cuspidor that stood near the stove in his roadhouse.
Children's
It's like it's
sake,
somewhere in
Sergeant.
Russia.
I can't remember the people who come into this place. They most all look the same, dirty, mad, and cussing the country. Most of them too tired to sit and listen to a good yarn. I can't tell you how many have come through here during the past few months. Too many to take off, I know that.
But there's one man on this list I'm sure you'll remember, Bill. His name's Pete Nelson. Young man in his 20s, clean-shaven. Has a small white dog with him, a wire-haired terrier.
Well, I ain't seen any dog like that around here.
I told Pete to be sure and talk to you, Bill. I know he meant to stop here. He wanted to hear some stories about the North, and I knew you could tell him some.
You bet I could, Sergeant. No, sir, he didn't stop here. I'd have remembered him if it was yarns he wanted to hear.
Great river
I ain't had a chance to tell any lately. Started one last night, and after about 2 minutes, everybody was asleep, and I was talking to myself.
And the money guy for some advice. He can take the confusion out of investment.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to wait a while to hear that one, Bill. I'm worried about Pete.
Don't see that you can do much about him.
That's
Might as well sit and wait. Maybe he'll show up. Now, as I was saying, I was up in the wild cattle.
I came over the trail after he did, Bill, so there's no possibility of that.
Maybe he didn't come north at all.
elevator or escalator is constantly out of service and you're not getting the response from your current elevator company that you deserve, call CEE. New installations, or you want to bring your elevator up to current safety codes, call CEE. They'll set up a maintenance program to ensure your elevator has reliable, trouble-free operation. For a free quote, contact CEE Elevator 905.
That is so loud.
Module de voyage 10 minutes plus tôt, la sonde a pénétré dans la haute atmosphère peu avant 22 heures. Par sa vitesse, elle a comprimé l'air devant elle au point de le faire chauffer à plus de 1300 degrés.
Yeah.
Bonne arrivée. 21h55, persévérance atterrit.
Don't use it when it comes to powerful people like Mark Zuckerberg.
We have, of course, now the Biden administration in power in the US. Do you think they're more likely to take on Facebook than maybe the Trump administration will?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, both political parties in the US and I think all over the world are kind of trying to reckon with this massive concentration of power that's represented in the form of big tech monopolies, and they're not sure what to do, and it's challenging both sides of the aisle in the US. But yeah, I think the Biden administration is likely to get aggressive. Maybe the Trump administration was getting aggressive. They filed a suit to break up Facebook in the waning days of the Trump administration.
What would you say to Facebook's argument on the news debate, which is this is just the way that the internet works? It's about sharing content, and they're taking that news to far more people than it was reaching before.
It's just none of it's true. They're liars. They continue to lie. They continue to cause a lot of damage. And they do it because our public policy regimes all throughout Western democracy say that if you're elite and powerful, you can get away with anything.
But that, have we always said that? Hasn't that always been the way?
Well, it's basically the last 20 years. I mean, yeah, sure, if you're powerful and wealthy, you've always had a little bit more leeway. But no, there's nothing like this is just crazy maybe since the late 1990s. Even during the savings and loan scandal in the United States in the early 1990s, we put 1,000 white collar executives in jail. George W. Bush put a bunch of people in jail from Enron. It was a big financial scandal. We really stopped doing this in kind of the late 1990s, early 2000s. And lo and behold, that's when Google, Facebook, and Amazon were formed. And as it turns out, these are the most predatory institutions, maybe globally, at least in terms of private dominant monopolies.
Because of the power, the size, and the scale of some of these tech companies, when you look at the Australian government, will they have the power to stand up to Facebook?
Yeah, the Australian government is standing up to China. They're standing up to Facebook and Google. I mean, it's incredibly impressive.
Mark Stoller there of the American Economics Liberties Project.
A court in southern Russia has found the opposition activist Anastasia Shevchenko guilty of working for an undesirable foreign-backed organization that sentenced her to a 4-year suspended prison sentence. The ruling was met with relief by the activist's supporters outside court and her family, including her 2 children who had been expecting their mother to be sent to jail. Our Moscow correspondent Sarah Rainsford was in court in Rostov-on-Don.
Anastasia Shevchenko was so sure she was going to prison, she packed a bag to take to court with her. It had slippers inside, a book, and some cockroach traps. Just a few basics for life behind bars. The opposition activist had already spent 2 years under house arrest, but the prosecutor wanted her jailed for 5 more.
I worry
about my family. So Anastasia told me she'd been preparing her mum and her children for the worst. We met up the night before the verdict. As we talked, she shouted up to her 9-year-old son Misha that she'd left him a voice message on his phone to keep. A reminder, she said, that she loves him.
They were making pictures in the darkness. They were following me.
The single mum was arrested because of one seminar and a protest where she stood with a flag that declared her fed up with Vladimir Putin. The prosecution linked her to a pro-democracy group based in Britain that Russia has banned as undesirable.
The debates, the seminars, and the political rallies is our right to express our opinions, to express our views. I don't know why I committed crime, because I really didn't. They treat me like a very dangerous person.
Got, I guess, around 1,000 letters.
On the table in her kitchen were piles of postcards from well-wishers abroad. They'd been dropped off by Alex Artemiev from Amnesty International, who's been following her case.
This is a clear message to the Russian civil society. Keep your mouth shut. Don't try to influence the politics.
Alex believes the use of the undesirables law marks a shift in Russia's thinking about the West.
So like 15 years ago, there were a lot of talk about building the common Europe from Lisbon to Vladivostok. But now the Russian state sees every type of cooperation between the civil society organizations.
Me and my generation grew up in. This was the type of
an essential threat to the well-being of the Russian state.
The bridge from Alaska to Siberia. They can physically do it. It can be done.
Anastasia's children and mother were all in court for the verdict, standing nervously in the front row as the judge mumbled through her summing up for several hours. Well, Anastasia Shevchenko has just been declared guilty. The court has found her a threat to national security, but the sentence she's been given is a suspended one, 4 years suspended. And of course, that is an enormous relief for her family. Bishop Tamara told me in tears that the most important thing was that the family wouldn't be split up.
Yeah, but if you fuck that up, you get to serve the rest of that
comes
sentence.
just weeks after the jailing of Alexei Navalny. The arrest of President Putin's biggest critic sparked mass protests in Russia and a fierce response by riot police. Tolerance of political dissent is shrinking here all the time. Alexander Solovyov is also an opposition activist, and he says he's worried the repression in Russia is set to get worse as talk of foreign plots and enemies increases.
People who are very close to Vladimir Putin whisper all the time that everything is being done by CIA. Those activists are being paid by CIA. Well, we used to laugh at it, but it seems this is what they really believe. You realize that, well, okay, this is really dangerous when people with this kind of mindset are ruling the country.
So close to understanding.
Outside court, there were cheers at the news that Anastasia had been spared prison. The activist's long house arrest is also over, and the electronic tag on her leg is finally coming off.
Is it Tanzania
but
or
Anastasia
Tanzania?
doesn't whoop for joy or even smile at the sentence. She tells me that's because she's not been cleared. But then she spots Misha across the courtroom, and the two run into a bear hug and lots of kisses. Misha tells me it's the best day of his life. He's just overjoyed that his mum is coming home with him.
That report there by Sarah Rainsford, who was in court in Rostov-on-Don in Russia. Yeah.
Quick question for you. What was it like playing against those tall players in South Sudan? It can't have been easy, particularly with your skills.
I was good. No, it was very hard.
You're listening to News 24. Un harcèlement devenu phénomène de société qui touche tout le monde, y compris le Sahel. Comment lutter?
Merci tous les deux, la météo.
France Info Météo, avec VK, concepteur de fenêtres design et isolantes pour toujours plus de confort. Retrouvez votre conseiller fenétrier VK sur veka.fr.
Toujours plus de douceur, Christine Peña.
Oui, toujours quelques degrés de plus. Alors demain, attention, pour ce week-end, les températures seront dignes d'une mi-avril. Nous aurons jusqu'à 17, allez, 18 dans la capitale. Aujourd'hui, la poussée est un petit peu limitée. 13 à Paris quand même. Jusqu'à 21 sur la côte basque. Les nuages sont encore bien présents au nord de la Loire et puis on a toujours ces entrées maritimes autour du golfe du Lion.
France Info 8h.
France Info, 7h, 9h30, Marc Fauvel.
Parole contre parole, plainte contre plainte. Le journaliste Patrick Poivre d'Arvor est accusé de viol par une écrivaine. La justice ouvre une enquête. L'ancien présentateur de TF1 annonce qu'il va porter plainte à son tour pour dénonciation calomnieuse. Bonjour Lucie Barbarin.
Bonjour.
Les autres titres avec vous.
La partie n'est pas encore gagnée contre l'épidémie, avertit hier soir le ministre de la Santé. À Dunkerque, l'heure n'est pas au carnaval. La commune frappée de plein fouet par le variant anglais. Il représente aujourd'hui plus de 70% des cas et un dépistage massif est lancé. Nous sommes sur place. Dans ce journal, Persévérance, reçu 5 sur 5 depuis mars. Le robot a réussi son atterrissage hier soir. Grand moment d'émotion pour la communauté scientifique. Et puis la maladresse invraisemblable du sénateur américain Ted Cruz. Il s'envole sous le le soleil du Mexique au moment où un froid polaire paralyse son état du Texas.
Dans 10 minutes, un club de foot à l'heure du Covid. Moins de recettes, des tribunes vides, des dirigeants et des joueurs qui s'interrogent. C'est le choix de France Info.
Faire Téléfoot Média Pro, c'est une catastrophe. À un moment donné, il faut que les gens se remettent en question pour à la fois corriger le tir et éviter de repartir dans un gouffre pareil.
Le sport dans tous ses états, on en parlera aussi avec notre invité à 8h30, Salia Brafia.
Oui, Roxana Maraciné à nous, la ministre des Sports. Quand allez-vous pouvoir rejouer au basket, au hand, au volleyball ou au foot en salle? C'est la question que vous vous posez, la réponse de la ministre dans une demi-heure. C'est donc une nouvelle affaire de viol présumé qui fait la une ce matin et qui éclabousse une figure emblématique de la télévision française. Patrick Poivre d'Arvor, ancienne star du 20h de TF1, fait aujourd'hui l'objet d'une enquête préliminaire après une plainte déposée en début de semaine au parquet de Nanterre par une femme de 37 ans, Florence Porcel, chroniqueuse et écrivaine. Elle décrit 2 viols, l'un en 2004 prescrit et l'autre en 2009. Bonjour Delphine Gaucho.
Bonjour.
Chef du service police-justice de France Info, Delphine PPDA a aussitôt décidé de contre-attaquer.
Oui, par la voix de son avocat, François Binet.
Sur le sol martien, un petit peu avant 21h temps universel. Immense fierté donc pour les têtes pensantes de la NASA, un sentiment partagé dans les locaux du Centre national d'études spatiales à Paris, où se trouvait Emmanuel Macron. Le chef de l'État a assisté hier à l'atterrissage en compagnie des scientifiques qui ont collaboré à cette mission sur Mars. Persévérance disposera en effet à son sommet de Supercam, un instrument développé en partie par l'OPS et le CNRS.
Billion doses, 1.2 billion more than they need to give their entire populations 2 doses. 130 countries in the world haven't done any vaccinations at all, and healthcare workers in those nations remain at high risk.
A protester in Myanmar who was shot in the head last week as police tried to disperse a crowd has died. Mya Thuat Kang had been on life support after being shot in the capital Naypyidaw. Bernadette Keogh reports.
The young woman was the first protester to be killed since Myanmar's army seized power on February the 1st and detained the country's elected leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. The demonstration turned violent when the security forces tried to disperse protesters using water cannon, rubber bullets and live rounds. At least 2 other people were reported to have been critically wounded. The young woman, who turned 20 while in a coma, has become a symbol of resistance for protesters who've wielded massive banners portraying her likeness during demonstrations.
Millions of people in the US state of Texas have been told to boil water amid severe winter weather that's brought chaos and disruption. Power failures and burst pipes are affecting water treatment facilities, with reservoirs in the state capital Austin nearly empty after water leaked out. BBC News.
Not enough pressure.
The car maker Renault has announced a record net loss of $9.7 billion for 2020. The French company's production and sales, and those of its Japanese partner Nissan, have suffered significant disruption from the pandemic. Malaysia's highest court has ruled that the news portal Malaysia Kini was guilty of contempt of court because it posted several readers' comments considered offensive to the judiciary. The independent news site was fined more than $120,000 in a judgment widely seen as a test of media freedom in Malaysia. The editor-in-chief was found not guilty of any offence. A NASA spacecraft has begun its mission to look for life on Mars after landing successfully on the planet. The Perseverance rover has been sending back pictures of the crater where it touched down. It will spend the next 2 years drilling into rocks to look for evidence of activity by microorganisms. It's the first NASA mission since the 1970s to search directly for signs of life on the red planet. Michaela Cooper, an astronomer, was part of the team that made the rover.
We set ourselves up for success going to Jezero Crater. I mean, imagine find your nearest lake down the street and dig up whatever's on the bottom. And if you look in a microscope, you're going to see a large quantity and diversity of microorganisms. And that's what we want to find, ancient microbial life.
Scientists in the United States have successfully cloned an endangered black-footed ferret using preserved cells from a dead wild animal. It's thought to be the first time that any native endangered species has been cloned in the US. The black-footed ferret was once widespread across the American West, but by the 1980s it was virtually extinct.
All living members of the species in the US are thought to come from a single colony found in Wyoming. And that's the latest. BBC News.
Thank you for that news. Welcome to Newsday with James and Rahul. Plenty coming up. We're going to get reaction to the US rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement. We'll talk to one of the people behind the latest NASA rover to land on Mars and ask whether it might find signs of life. And we'll hear how the reconstructed letters found in a ship sunk during World War II.
Today, the leaders of the G7 nation economies, the US, Canada, Japan, France, Germany, Italy and the United Kingdom, will be holding a virtual meeting with the worldwide distribution of COVID-19 vaccines topping the agenda. Ahead of the meeting, the White House has already announced $4 billion towards an international coronavirus vaccination program. The French President, Emmanuel Macron, has said Europe and the United States should urgently allocate 5% of their COVID vaccine supplies to developing countries. So, could this happen?
That made this movie. They're a directing and writing duo, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They're known for making these just incredibly warped and ethereal feeling films. This would be the third major film. They did a film called Spring and then one called The Endless. And now this one, which is their biggest budget one that they've done, it's got Anthony Mackie, who is the Falcon in the MCU, and also Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of Grey. And it's basically about two paramedics who the calls that they're responding to on 1 week in New Orleans all seem to be centered around this new drug called Synchronic, which is causing really weird accidents and everything. And this one really kind of reminded me of like Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, kind of mishmashed with some really deep and heady sci-fi. And the less I go into the actual plot, the better for this movie.
The better? Why the better?
It's just, it's kind of like a flower, Shane. It's just got to open itself up and give you all the secrets.
It's like a flower. Wow. If anybody had said to me that was going to be the takeaway from anything to do with The Shift, I would say that that's, you bumped your head. Okay. Okay, so if you're looking to have your flower blossom this weekend, your cinematic flower, then Synchronic would be worth considering, according to Steve Stebbing. Let's get the clip for Supernova.
Now, as most of you will know, of fighting for the state of Texas.
Mais j'ai aussi la responsabilité que je prends très au sérieux de me battre pour l'État du Texas et franchement, partir alors qu'il y avait autant de Texans qui ça n'était pas bien. J'ai donc changé mon vol retour pour le premier vol disponible.
Ted Cruz a fait un petit tour en avion et est revenu, interrogé par CNN. Il a ensuite reconnu formellement avoir fait une erreur. Et puis, à vos chiffres, à vos stylos, un record à l'euro-million a décroché ce soir 202 millions d'euros pour la loterie européenne. On rappelle que c'est un Français qui avait empoché le dernier jackpot de 200 millions au mois de décembre.
La chance comme la foudre peut-elle frapper deux fois au même endroit? C'est la question du jour. Merci beaucoup, Lucie Barbarin. C'est un avant-goût du printemps pour le week-end. Christine Peña, côté météo.
Bah oui, une poussée printanière, carrément. Alors un peu limitée aujourd'hui, mais dès demain, les températures iront de 16 à 23 degrés du nord au sud en plein mois de février. Évitez la Bretagne et le Languedoc-Roussillon si vous voulez rester sous un...
Février, elle avait été touchée par un tir à la tête lors d'une manifestation dans la capitale administrative. Les Birmans vivant en France ont manifesté hier. Ils étaient quelques dizaines devant l'ambassade de Birmanie à Paris pour exprimer leur mécontentement face au coup d'État. En France, il s'agit de protéger les mineurs face aux agressions sexuelles et aux viols, que ce soit dans ou à l'extérieur de leur famille. Le gouvernement veut améliorer la loi existante, notamment faire passer le seuil en deçà duquel on ne peut pas dire que la victime était consentante à 15 ans, 18 ans pour l'inceste. Un texte du Parti socialiste a été adopté hier en ce sens, même si le gouvernement devrait finalement choisir son propre texte. En tout cas, cela montre l'unanimité et la volonté d'avancer sur ce sujet. Aurélien Devernois a pu échanger avec l'auteur de la proposition.
Bridget Jones. Well, I mean, he won an Academy Award for King's Speech for playing King Albert.
I guess so. But that was that mainstream enough that most people would know him from that. I don't know. Anyway, so talented and diverse that that I would watch it just for that dude. He's one of those guys that I think you just watch the movie for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and he played so well off of Stanley Tucci, who in the lead up to this, I called the Tooch to Matt, and it really delighted him.
The Tooch.
The Tooch.
You have to be nice to Matty. I told him that we might stream our video call here coming up soon, and he was put off by that, so he's frowning and scowling into the camera. All right, let's get our next clip here. It's Some Kind of Heaven.
I think that when you live in the villages, you're acting.
Interview du président de la République au quotidien britannique Financial Times. Atterrir sur Mars, c'est réussi, et même c'est historique, pour reprendre les termes de Joe Biden. Le président américain félicite les scientifiques, techniciens de la NASA qui ont permis cet exploit du robot Perseverance. C'est maintenant que tout commence. Les experts vont chercher à distance des traces de vie microbienne anciennes sur cette planète rouge.
Rien ne serait pire que de lever les contraintes, certes lourdes, mais ô combien nécessaires, au mauvais moment, trop tôt. Nous devons encore tenir ensemble, faire reculer vraiment le virus, sortir de la zone de danger.
Ni durcissement ni allègement des mesures. Le ministre de la Santé, Olivier Véran, l'a confirmé hier soir. Il estime que la stratégie actuelle est la bonne pour lutter contre l'épidémie. Bonjour Solène Lehen.
Bon. Cream stops tooth decay best. And here are additional important facts. Over a 2-year period, the Colgate way stopped more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. Yes, the Colgate way of brushing teeth right after eating.
They had an experiment to test the chemical activity of the soil to see if there are stuff alive in it, and the result is positive. The official NASA interpretation of the result is that it's
Mars.
the
I've got the plants here that'll grow.
Forensics. They always gather, obviously, DNA from someone's blood, or they use fingerprints found on whatever scene or whatever took place. So fingerprints have always been, I mean, at least when I'm doing a federal criminal background check back in the States, we have to go through the FBI, and they always require fingerprinting. And the old-fashioned way, I mean, there are live scans where you can just put your fingers on a machine and they'll, do its thing, and then it'll get your print. But they typically have you put your finger in the the black ink, and you roll your finger, every single finger on this like finger card or whatever. But that's the way it's always been done. So I'm wondering if this vein
some weird secret code
this vein thing is going to actually work. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
But actually, this is the first time that I ever heard anyone saying that you could actually identify yourself through the veins on the back of your hand. And I was like, okay, so we use our hands all the time, and since it's the back of our hand, so my bio information could be exposed to anyone. This is something that
it's a bit strange,
I don't know how to think about this. Do we need these many biometric information to identify ourselves? And could we just use one instead of our voice recognition, fingerprint recognition, the iris recognition, then now the vein recognition?
Well, I think that it applies because you do have, for security reasons, you're always going to have people who find ways to go around it. And as we just heard, there's obviously ways that people can extract dummy prints, and you can use contact lenses to bypass, obviously, the iris detection. So you're going to have these hackers or just people, criminals or people who are just really good with getting around things. And sometimes with technology, there's always glitches and things like that. So I think that you have to always switch things up, because when something is standard the whole time, again, people find a way to counter that. So I could see a need for having different security measures, but the veins in the back of the hands, I think this is interesting, because
I'm kind of veiny, you know. I think it's because maybe it's because I work out a lot, you know. So like the veins in my arms and
Yeah. Bronco Dawson.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's Glenn Howerton in just like a ridiculously gonzo performance. I mean, this one isn't like going to be like the big budget, amazing Spielberg stuff, but it is just a lot of fun.
All right, look forward to it. Now we're going into Lovecraft Country Season 1.
I told you to stay away from that damn place. There's something here.
My big fat what?
He wouldn't beat in your big fat anything. I'm a little confused, sir, but actually your head is neither big nor fat.
Well, thank you.
It's just pleasingly plump.
You have made me very happy, my dear. Now get out.
You just got to listen to reason. Bronco was only fighting to protect school property from some hoodlums. Stretch Snodgrass told me so himself.
A cock and bull story born of hero worship.
Oh, but Mr. Conklin,
the case is closed. In a few days, the board will provide us with a new coach.
I wish you'd reconsider this matter, Mr. Conklin. It means a great deal, not only to me, but to the entire student body. Student body. You see, the team had just voted me faculty queen.
Congratulations, Your Majesty. Now, with your permission, I'd like to back away from the royal presence. I've got things to do.
Yes, sir.
Oh, one moment. Just before you came in, the custodian told me that some of the players he spoke with are planning to cut football practice after school today.
Yes, I know, but that can all be changed.
I think so, too. And since you're so popular with the boys, it seems entirely possible that you could have a hand in changing it.
What are you getting at, Mr. Conklin?
I have another crown for your head, Queenie. You are hereby appointed temporary football coach.
Oh, but Mr. Conklin, there's no need for that if you'll only give Bronco a chance to explain. The mere fact that he was an All-American fullback and heavyweight champion of the Navy is no reason for you to be afraid of him.
Afraid of him? Who said I was afraid of him? Osgood Conklin fears no man. You forget, Miss Brooks, that you are speaking to the former captain of the Rutgers tug-of-war team. For 3 years, I was anchor man on that team. Atlas, they used to call me. No matter how tenacious our adversary, I could always be depended upon to see heavyweight champion of the Navy. Boom!
It's just the phone. You can come out from under the desk, Atlas.
Oh, yes, the phone. One moment, please. This may be another threatening call from Bronco, Miss Brooks. I'll have to ask you to wait in the hall.
But, Mr. Conklin...
If I lose my temper with him, I may forget to use the King's English. Come, I'll let you have it.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Zimmerman's Butcher Shop.
Quit your clowning, Osgood Conklin. This is Mrs. Davis. Margaret Davis, Miss Brooks' landlady.
Oh, well, Margaret, I'm very happy to hear from you. Very happy indeed.
Well, you may not be so happy when I tell you why I called. Your wife just dropped over and told me that you had poor Bronco Dawson fired.
Well, what has that got to do?
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Bronco was the best football coach that Madison ever had.
Now, please, Margaret, my actions in this matter were completely justified. I simply had to do
If
something.
I were a man, I'd come over there and beat your big fat head in.
Now, see here, Margaret. Bronco Dawson engaged in a common brawl on my campus yesterday. He's nothing but a ruffian.
He's a perfect gentleman. I happened to witness part of that encounter, and the moment Bronco saw me, he stopped hitting those bullies.
What?
That's how much of a gentleman he is. He told me himself he would never hit anyone in the presence of a woman.
He wouldn't? Well, perhaps we'd better discuss this another time, Margaret.
But
I'll talk to you later. I've been suddenly taken busy. Good day.
I'm in, Miss Brooks.
I don't want to seem insistent, Mr. Conklin,
I mean, you wonderful woman, you. Sit down, my dear. Take my chair. I'll squat on the floor. Go on, go on. Sit in that swivel chair. Lean back on it. Take a nap if you like.
A nap? You mean I'm awake now? Oh, there's the bell, Mr. Conklin. I've got a class starting.
You mean we've got a class, Miss Brooks? I have long been of the opinion that a man in my position should occasionally refurbish his education. And where can I better acquire additional knowledge than by kneeling at the feet of wisdom? Your feet, Miss Brooks.
If I knew you were coming, I'd have shined my shoes. All right. All you backfield men, take a few turns on those parallel bars.
I've got the lineman working on the heavy weights, Miss Brooks.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Boynton. It was very nice of you to offer your assistance this afternoon. I don't know much about football.
Oh, that's all right, Miss Brooks. Of course, I can't help feeling that Mr. Conklin should never have let Bronco Dawson go. If it's not too late, I'd like to talk to him about it. Do you know where I could find Mr. Conklin now, Miss Brooks?
Probably in the bottom drawer of his desk. He's afraid that Bronco's going to beat him up for getting him fired.
Oh, but that's absurd. Bronco's a very peaceful sort of chap. You know, I got to know him pretty well in recent days. He told me he liked everything about Madison, even Mr. Conklin. In fact, he was planning on bringing his wife here from Millsboro.
I didn't know Bronco was married. He never mentioned having a wife.
Yeah, I know. He's an odd one when it comes to women.
He's an odd one.
By that, I meant he keeps his private life pretty much to himself. He sort of confided in me, though. Even told me he had a baby a couple of years ago. Never mentioned it to a soul.
Must have been quite a surprise to his wife. I guess it's too late to do anything about Bronco now. He hasn't even come back to school for his uniform.
Pardon me, Miss Brooks. We got the blackboard all set up for skull practice.
Good. Get the skulls together and we'll practice.
Where's the board set up, Walter?
Right near the tackling pit. Of course, those hoodlums stole our tackling dummy yesterday, so I had to borrow a big laundry bag from the cafeteria. I told Kenny Patterson to get it stuffed with sawdust or something. I hope he didn't forget.
Hey, get a load of me, folks. I brought out Bronco Dawson's uniform for today. It's the old number 99 he wore in college. Good old 99. And that yellow jersey is hot stuff, all right. Well, how do you like it, Miss Brooks?
Now I know how mustard looks when it's happy. But Stretch, where's your own uniform?
Well, that showed up missing. One of those hoots glommed on it yesterday while Bronco was clobbering the other two. How does that go again?
I'll translate, Mr. Boynton. Stretch means his uniform was pilfered by one brigand while our football coach was taking punitive measures against his confederates.
How does that go again?
Well, we better get going. I want to see if that laundry sack has been stuffed.
Your Honor, me having old Bronco's uniform on, Miss Brooks. Don't you think I ought to get the first shot at tackle practice?
Well, don't look at me, Stretch. You'll have to settle for the sack.
Hi, Daddy. What are you doing on the athletic field?
I was on my way home, Harriet. Left the building through the side entrance today.
But why, Daddy?
Just for kicks.
You know, for a minute I thought you might be looking for old 99. I was hoping you might have changed your mind about letting him go.
Old 99?
Yes. That's what a lot of the kids call Bronco Dawson. Those are the numerals he wore on his college uniform. He's kept them to this day.
I hope I've seen the last of Bronco Dawson and his numerals.
I'm afraid you're not going to get your hope, Daddy. It looks like old 99 is coming out of the gym now.
Where? Oh, there. Oh, dear.
I'd like to stay and watch some practice, but I've got a date with Susie Prentice at 3:15, and oh, golly, I'm late. See you later, Daddy. I've got to run.
You've got to run? Oh, no, I'd better not. He'd nail me in a minute on this open field. I've got to hide. Ah, this laundry bag. I just hop in here and pull the string. Champion of the Navy yet.
All right now, fellas. Let's line up for the tackle practice.
Give me a hand with this dummy, will you, folks?
All right, Walter.
I'll help, too.
I'm glad Kenny didn't forget to stuff it.
From the way it feels, it must have stuffed it with blubber.
We'll just hoist it up between these uprights.
Yeah.
Now remember, fellas, hit it low and hit it hard.
Come on, Stretch. You started off.
Okay, here goes.
That's a pretty nice tackle, Stretch, but a little too low.
What do you mean, too low, Mr. Quinn? I thought I hit it just right.
Why don't you...
Like 5 more
They
minutes.
saw your replica homes. And so I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about that process for you, why you're building those homes and what that all looks like for you.
Thank you, Ren, and thanks for having me first. I really appreciate it. Well, again, it's a hobby. It started with me when I was a little kid. My dad is an architect, luckily, so I used to copy him when I was a little kid. And of course, obviously, he purchased many Lego sets for me. And he taught me how to use the blueprints in order to build a house from Lego or any architectural model or build from Lego. And I kept it from there. So it's a hobby, basically. And it got expanded when I met Saskatchewan Lego Users Group, or SLUG. I really appreciate their efforts and when they accepted me as a new member. So, yeah, this is my main theme, let me say. I'm focused more on architectural buildings. Others, they are focused on Star Wars or techniques, etc., etc. And on top of that, I like to do the interior because I have I love to do interiors. Like I'm interested in interiors always in real life and Lego life, beside the architectural side. Even though I'm not an architect, unfortunately, like I'm social worker. But yeah, I kept it as hobby or just for fun.
Just something you cared about, which is part of the reason why Lego, I think, sticks with so many people after they grow up, right? And so now, when you say blueprints, did your dad literally bring out blueprints that he had at work, for example, and say, this is how you could use this to build Lego?
Yes, yeah. Like he used to show me old projects blueprints, and he started showing me how to do the scaling measurements and how to use tools to do that. Accurate as possible, because you know at the end it's Lego. It won't be like 100%. It's not like 3D printer.
If you make it big enough.
So he used to show me how to use a blueprint and read the elevations, for example, the front side, the sides, or the back side, etc.
It gets quite amazing.
It's amazing, yeah.
Like it's like, Sharif, you have to understand, like it is beyond, hey, by the way, I built a Lego house. Like this is remarkably amazing. Have you ever considered actually going into, you know, changing careers now in your life and going into architecture because of this?
Honestly, sometimes, yes, I think about it. Or at least I think I should do graphic design or interior design courses or programs now. I would love to do that.
Like you need to understand, like this is mind-blowingly amazing, and the fact that you have lights, even like it's
next level.
Yeah, you're onto something here. I gotta tell you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, true. I'm passionate and I do lots of efforts in every creation, whether it's for client or myself or just to participate in exhibitions or competitions, as we used to do before COVID with the SLUG, Saskatchewan Lego Users Group across Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Have you found that this particular part of your life has kind of exploded or come more to the forefront because of COVID?
COVID definitely affected us in all aspects. Unfortunately, we can't do our exhibitions now or competitions. Another thing, when we want to order parts from across the country or overseas, sorry, it takes longer time.
You know what I do things
yeah.
at my house that I forget one piece. You know, if you have to run to Home Depot and you're like, oh, I forgot the screws. You know, you can go back to Home Depot and you can go get the screws. In this case, especially during COVID, when you're waiting for parts, looking at the picture of the bed, the bunk bed that you made, like if you were to forget one of those little blue pieces and you're like, oh no, I ordered 100 pieces, but I forgot the one piece I needed. And then you're at a full stop until you can keep going.
It happened. This is true. Yeah, it happened. And it's a big mistake for us, especially that it's going to take more time. And of course, additional expenses, because shipping from Europe, for example, or the States to Canada, it costs, especially when we order like big bulks.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's
so
such an
COVID
amazing...
definitely affected us, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
But has it been at least, you know, for you, it seems like your group has been able to keep creating, you know, it's not going to stop you. So have you kind of used the more time stuck at home to really, you know, work on how am I going to make the most realistic bunk bed possible? You know, is that the kind of things that COVID has allowed you to create?
Well, part of it, yes, because we have to stay obviously longer at our places or homes now because of COVID. So, of course, we have the chance now to focus more on Lego. And our creativity got expanded now. So yes, maybe staying at home helped me to create more or be more creative. So I get into more details in each part or piece of Lego.
You know, one of the things that lands for me with Lego, I'm going to turn my computer. You might be able to see right there. This is my Lego shoe rack. I disassembled thousands of sets of Lego and used it to create this shoe rack to hold my stuff. Because I myself am a mega Lego nerd. And one of the things people come at me for is like, Ryan, you're 24. Why are you still playing Lego? And the way I kind of see it is, why do kids love Lego? It's the creativity. But creativity doesn't die when you become an adult. So where does that kind of land for you?
Exactly. It depends how you look at it, because Lego definitely is not only a toy, and it's not limited to a specific age. Like within our group, you find guys in their 40s, 50s, and I think 60s even. Why? Because Lego
time and the money.
It
makes more sense.
You can stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair.
L'entreprise qui normalise les masques, qui les certifie et qui aujourd'hui a proposé une norme volontaire à des entreprises qui vont évidemment se mettre à les fabriquer, à les mettre sur le marché pour pouvoir avoir des masques qui permettent une respirabilité meilleure que les masques actuels.
The political leaders as a whole, and particularly the government leaders, do not seem to be understanding the gravity of the problem at the moment.
Do you think the president, does he really want a solution here, do you think?
Well, I don't know whether actually he wants a solution. At the moment, it seems that either he is not interested or he does not have the capacity to deliver it. As far as I understand, the outstanding issues are not difficult issues. There are 3 issues, and those 3 issues could simply be dealt with. So the fact that he left the meeting in Dusamareb, where actually those 3 issues could have been ironed out, I think that it put some doubt on his will. But after, actually, just a couple of days ago, we heard that at least there was technical committee that came to some sort of bridging between the positions, and I thought he would be endorsing this. That hasn't happened yet. He called for a meeting, and that meeting did not take place. So I think there is a lot of the blame goes to the government leadership simply because they are ultimately responsible for everybody.
Now, we know that there's a lot of international pressure, though, coming on the government. Firstly, do you think that'll make a difference? And secondly, who can put that pressure on? Do you think that President Biden, with maybe more interest in Africa, could be better for this process than the previous U.S. president?
Well, so far, anything that has actually, I would say even anything positive that happened in the past on the front of politics was because of the international community's guidance and pressure. Somalis or Somali parties agreed on this September 17 framework because of the U.S.-led pressure of the international community, and even about a few weeks ago, where Somali groups did not want to meet with each other, the U.S. again pressured it. So yes, I think if any one country has an outsized influence, it's the United States.
Dr. Helmy, thank you so much for joining us and making sense of the situation there in Somalia as the political crisis continues.
Germany now, where doctors and public health officials have been calling on people to take the AstraZeneca vaccine in the fight against coronavirus. Why? Well, there seems to be something of a slow uptake on the vaccine, perhaps linked to official guidance last month that the AstraZeneca vaccine was recommended only for people aged 18 to 64 years. Yeah. We can speak now to Carsten Watson, General Secretary of the German Society for Immunology. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us here on...
Intérimaire. Le président égyptien Abdel Fattah al-Sisi l'a reçu hier, après sa nomination au début du mois. La Libye, où l'on célèbre cette semaine les 10 ans de la révolte contre Muammar Kadhafi, mais une décennie après la révolution à laquelle ils ont largement participé. Les Berbères ont peu de raisons de s'enthousiasmer. Reportage à Jadou de notre envoyé spécial Abba Jounaïdi. Patrick Youssouf est un enfant de Jadou dans le Djebel Nefoussa, ville berbère perchée dans la montagne dans une zone qui fut capitale pour la révolte libyenne.
C'est d'ici que les rebelles sont descendus pour prendre Tripoli le 20 août 2011. C'est un rempart naturel et ici, beaucoup des premiers opposants se sont rassemblés. Évidemment, nous, les Berbères, on a tout de suite rejoint le mouvement.
Malgré la fin d'un régime qui leur interdisait d'exprimer leur culture, les Berbères redoutent désormais un référendum sur la constitution prévue cette année.
Après la libération, beaucoup de Libyens ont découvert qu'il y avait des Berbères dans le pays. On a entendu certaines de nos revendications, comme le droit de parler et d'enseigner notre langue. Mais beaucoup pensent comme Kadhafi. Dans le projet de référendum, on évoque la Libye comme un État qui appartient à la communauté arabe. Mais ça n'existe pas. La Libye est une communauté en soi avec des Arabes, des Berbères et des Toubous.
En attendant, les Berbères étaient venus en nombre cette semaine à Tripoli pour célébrer la révolution libyenne, drapeau libyen et amazir en main. Abba Jounaïdi, Tripoli, RFI. Un haut responsable sénégalais nommé à la tête de la SFI, Makhtar Diop, ex-vice-président Afrique de la Banque mondiale, prend au sein de cette institution la tête de la branche qui est chargée de l'investissement privé. C'est le premier Africain à occuper ce poste stratégique, Olivier Roger.
Où s'arrêtera Makhtar Diop, l'ex-vice-président de la Banque mondiale qui a dirigé successivement le département Afrique pendant 6 ans, puis celui des investissements, s'occupera dès le 1er mars de la SFI, la Société financière internationale, une branche dédiée au financement du secteur privé dans le monde et dont le rôle ne cesse de prendre de l'importance. À 60 ans, Makhtar Diop est devenu incontournable à la Banque mondiale. Depuis 2018, il gérait le cœur du réacteur de l'institution, à savoir les énormes projets d'infrastructures pilotés par la banque. Ce financier formé à Londres et Paris, qui fut aussi économiste au Fonds monétaire international, a connu un bref épisode ministériel au Sénégal, occupant entre 2000 et 2001 le portefeuille de l'économie et des finances. On lui doit alors une importante réforme de la douane et du trésor sénégalais. Ce fils d'avocat originaire de la région de Louga est réputé calme et discret, féru de karaté et d'arts martiaux qu'il a pratiqué durant sa jeunesse jusqu'au niveau universitaire. Il a peut-être médité cette maxime que l'on doit au maître en la matière, Bruce Lee. Dans la vie, il n'y a pas de limite, mais des niveaux qu'il faut atteindre puis dépasser.
Olivier Roger. Et on termine avec du football, la CAN des moins de 20 ans en Mauritanie. Les étalons ont renversé hier à Nouakchott la Centrafrique 3-1.
Swaps, which is common thing, bills
and lights. You put lights inside, which is also amazing.
Nice touch.
Yeah, this is recent. I won't hide it from you. I found at dollar store an incredible compatible lighting system.
Really?
Only for $2.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You can light up my
we're frugal here on the show. We love that part. So absolutely, if you can do that, we're big fans.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is an advice to whoever builds Lego. Go check dollar store and see if you can find that lighting kit or system. It's only for $2.
Nice.
Yeah, I informed my Saskatchewan members, of course, about it, so they save money.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Ryan, do you have one last question for Sharif before we say goodbye? Because this is beautiful. I love it.
I would just say that I know, Shane, this was on your mind. How many times have you accidentally stepped on a piece of Lego while building these incredible houses?
Now, in my age now, or when I was a child?
Well, now.
Now's exactly. When you're a kid, you can write it off as just part of the experience.
Pretty much every time, every day when I was a little kid. But now, honestly, it never happened. Like, I can't remember, because I have organized my Lego inventory in really nice way. So I hardly miss or find a piece on the floor or on the ground.
Structure is always the key. I love it. Lego replicas of houses 3 feet wide. Like, this is amazing stuff. He's in Regina. Sharif Al-Shurafa joining us here on The Shift. It's a pleasure to meet you, Sharif, and I think you have a friend for life in Ryan. Absolutely. So you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hosting me again. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to chatting with you guys again.
Well, let us know
so much.
When you build new things, send us pictures, please.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
send me an email. Keep me in the loop.
Yeah, sure. Of course, Ryan. Thank you.
That's Sharif Al-Shurafa. And he builds Lego, like full-on scale Lego houses. And you should see the love bubbles going off above Ryan and Sharif's head there. Soulmates, these two.
It's all about the blocks, bro. All about the block. Wow, the blocks.
Nice. It's The Shift. I'm Shane. We'll be right back.
Canada's